Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the communication model, and we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on the communication model. In the previous discussion we looked at non-verbal communication and non-verbal communication cues, and now we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on verbal communication and the communication model. It is actually something that is very important. So I would like you to spend some time going through the model and making sure you understand it. Verbal communication, as much as we take it for granted, as much as we all speak and as much as we all as salespeople speak, and we talk about having the gift of the gab, verbal communication is also, and I keep repeating myself, and I'm sorry if you're bored with this, but it's about listening. And remember that verbal communication includes selling on the telephone or talking on the telephone. So you can't be seen when you talk on the telephone, but in modern times now we are Skyping a lot and we're talking on computers. So verbal communication is becoming slightly different and we need to adjust to that. So the communication model that you can see behind me starts with the source. Now the source is you, that is the salesperson. And this communication model is used across all disciplines. Advertising agencies use it, business organizations use it. It's used in all communication models. But for our purposes, you, the salesperson, is the source. You then will send a message, and when you send this message, you are encoding the process. So you're the source, you are seeing a client, you've got a message that you are telling the client, you're encoding the process. Let's run through it and then I'll use examples to explain it. I'm sitting in front of the CEO of an organization and I'm explaining my product to him. I'm encoding my product. I've got the product in front of him. That's my material. I'm giving him the product features. I'm giving him the product benefits. So I'm encoding the message. The message then is the information intended. Very simple. It's the message. The medium is the form of communication used in the sales presentation and discussion, most frequently words, visual materials, and body language. So in a different context, the medium could be television or the medium could be billboards, etc. if we were talking advertising. We as salespeople, our medium is ourselves or the message we're bringing across. So the medium would be our presentation, our discussion, our words, our visual materials, and our body language. We discussed body language in a lot of detail. If you're not aware of your body language, you could be sending the wrong message. You would be encoding your message incorrectly. You will be sending the wrong message, and a recipient would be decoding the message incorrectly. They would be interpreting the message incorrectly. So the way they receive the message is the way they're interpreting the message. Be very careful that you understand the difference between encoding and decoding. Encoding is how you send the message, how you are taking the message and sending it. And decoding is how they are receiving the message and how they understand the message. And in exams, in marketing exams or sales exams, they like to ask this communication model for obvious reasons. And students often confuse encoding and decoding. And the one goes hand in hand with the other. If your body language isn't correct, if you haven't thought about your product, if you haven't thought about what message you're going to send out, the decoding gets confused. They don't understand what you're trying to tell them. The receiver is the person the communication is intended for, the prospect or the buyer, and then feedback. Hopefully we get the sale. Hopefully it's closing the deal. But it's the reaction to the communication we've given them. Then noise. Noise is any factor that's outside the communication you're sending. the distortion. So noise can be a real noise. If you're listening to this video recording and there's a car racing past, that's obviously really noise. If your child is crying in the background, that's really noise. But noise could be any form of distraction. It could be any form of interference with your way of thinking. So if you're sitting in front of the client and you're doing a pitch on a particular product, noise could be a competitor that has a similar product that he might have seen this morning, or a competitor that he's going to see this afternoon. That is noise. It's any barrier to the communication. And you as the salesperson, you as the person giving the message, has to be very mindful of the noise. You have to be very mindful, and you have to overcome that noise. So can we just run through it again? The source is you, the salesperson. Encoding is the development of the message that you're sending across. The message and the medium is the actual sales presentation, your actual pitch. The decoding is what the buyer is understanding and how they're interpreting it. And your aim is for it not to be distorted. Therefore, how you're encoding it is very important. How you are bringing it across. How you're putting your words into action, how you're putting your body language into action is very important. And how the receiver actually receives the message and how they will give you feedback is vital. And the noise, you've got to be cognizant of the noise. There's a couple of words, a couple of things that I would like to highlight when it comes to verbal communication. When selling, there are certain words that we need to avoid. I was always taught, now understand, my industry is very much about a luxury industry and a lifestyle industry. So I was always taught that the word cheap is a 4-letter word. There are some industries where you use the word cheap because that is what people are looking for. So understand the context. If you are looking for cheap insurance, then you use the word cheap. If you're looking for safe insurance, you use the word safe. But be very mindful of the words you are using, because a word has a different meaning to different people. I spoke about culture. Words have cultural meaning or different cultural meaning to different people. And the words we use when we sell have a lot of impact on what people understand. So be very careful of how you speak. There's certain words we like to repeat. People use words like love. I love it. Some people get offended when you use the word love. Love has a deep meaning to people, so maybe be careful, mindful of word love. Words such as results. Results is factual. When you use the word results, it means it's proven. So be careful to use certain words. If you use the word result, then hopefully you've got facts behind it. People often like to say we have a new product. Is it really new? Advertising love to say new and improved toothpaste, when meantime the toothpaste has been around for years. So be mindful of the words you use when you're selling. In your text, you'll see there's 15 words that have been identified as good sales words. It's not always as easy. It depends on your industry and on what you are selling. The other thing that often gets spoken about is jargon and swear words and that type of thing. Obviously you don't swear, and obviously you don't talk, well, I don't know, politics. Some industries maybe you do talk politics, but be mindful of jargon, be mindful of being too casual, be mindful of certain words that you use. So think about it and watch what you say. The other topic with regarding verbal communication is tone, pitch, and pattern. A high voice tone can be very annoying. If you've got a naturally high voice pitch or tone or your pattern, you have to practice. You have to really go for classes, or you have to ask somebody to help you. Stand in front of a mirror. There are ways you can learn, but a boring conversation, you're going to lose your audience. Active listening is very important. I don't know if you ever hear the story, they say you can tell your husband anything or you can tell your boyfriend anything because he's not going to tell anybody who's not listening to you. And we joke about it, but I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself, but we have to listen to what our clients say. One more thing is questions. Questions. Open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. That's another skill we have to learn. If you sit in front of a client and you say to him, would you like to place an order? And he says no. That's a closed-ended question. So now what do? You've asked him, would you like to place an order? He says no. Well, now, sorry for you, the answer is no. Learn to ask open-ended questions. When would you like me to deliver your order, sir? And then he could say, not this week, but next week. So open-ended questions lead people into questions. However, you can use a closed-ended questions when you want a definitive answer. If you want a yes or no answer, you ask a closed-ended question. In selling, learn to ask open-ended questions so that you lead people into giving you more information so that you can keep the conversation going. So asking questions in a correct way is a skill that is part of communication and part of listening and part of verbal communication. So communication is hugely involved. We're talking, we're listening, we're questioning, we're reading body language, and it's all so much to take in, but it's stuff that we do every day of our lives. We just got to think a little bit more about what we do. And again, I remind you, be cognizant of the way other people do it, because your way is not always the right way. Other people, you might learn from what they do and respect the way they do it.